afternoon, Year 10. So today we're doing word problems. So you have to look carefully at the words in this question and particularly at what they're trying to get you to find. So they will end up using quadratic equations because that's the topic we're in. So if we have a look at this first one, we have a park is in the shape of a right-angled triangle with its base 5 metres longer than its perpendicular height. If the area of this park is 700 metres squared, find the dimensions of the park. So at the end they will ask you what to find. It says find the dimensions. Dimensions are whatever the things are that make up the area formula for that shape. We're talking about a triangle. So the area of a triangle needs a base and a perpendicular height. So we have to find the base and the perpendicular height, and they are its dimensions. So we're looking for both of these things. Okay, so when we have a look at our diagram, we're going to draw our own diagram. I'm drawing a right-angled triangle, and over here it tells you the base is 5 metres longer than its perpendicular height. So if we start with h being the perpendicular height, and the base is 5 metres longer than that. So it's this plus 5. After that, we're going to start with our area formula. The area of a triangle is a half base by height. And then we're going to substitute in everything we know. So we've got a half. The base is h plus 5. Don't forget anything with more than one term goes in a bracket. And the height is just h. Over here, they told you the area. They told you down here that the area, oops, it's supposed to be underlined, the area is 700. So you can put that area straight in there. So now we've got an equation to solve with just h being our letter, and we're going to be finding that letter. All right, now I'm doing something a bit different here. Normally I would tell you to, well, firstly we're going to move these two things together. So the half and the h are going to move together, and then we're going to write down the h plus 5. Because essentially you have three things being multiplied here, right? You've got a half times something times something. That's what we're looking at there. You can see it. So when you're multiplying three things, it doesn't matter what order you do them in. You'll still get the same result. So I'm putting the half and the h together to bring them together as one term, because a half times h is half h. So I'm doing that first, and then we're going to multiply by the h plus 5 in a minute. But then when I look at it, what I'm going to do here, now you don't have to do this. If you want to go and do your full expansion with a half h squared plus 2.5h, or plus 5 over 2h, that's fine, keep going. But what's going to happen if you do that is we have two fractions then. At the moment we're looking at 1. So I'm going to try and get rid of this fraction now, so I don't have to look at fractions anymore. So here, this is all one term, so it's legal to do what I'm about to do. We've got two terms here. We have one term over here, 700, and all of this is one term as well. So I'm going to take the times half and take it to the other side and do the opposite, which is divide by a half. Now if you put that in your calculator, 700 divided by a half, you're going to end up with 1400. Over here now, all we have to do, because we've got rid of our fraction, is expand our brackets. So we've got h squared plus 5h on the right-hand side, and this worked out to be 1400 over here. So now we're going to have a look at what we've got. It's a quadratic equation because we can see the letter is squared. So we're going to take everything to one side and make it equal to 0. So I'm going to keep the h squared plus 5h here. I'm going to bring the plus 1400 over to be minus 1400 and keep our 0 over here on the left. So now we have a product of minus 1400 and a sum of positive 5. So we're trying to find the factor pairs for 1400. Now we could be here forever doing this, so you have to start learning with big numbers to get a few sort of different ideas to get there quickly. So I've started to do what we would normally do, which is 1 and 1400, 2 and 700, 3 doesn't go into it, 4 and 350. Now you'll notice when you times something by 2, the other thing divides by 2. And that's a good tip because it helps you a lot with these things. 5 goes into it 280 times. Now we could keep going forever, it would have heaps of factors. But we can see that the sum has to end up being a 5. So what we're trying to find is these things are narrowing in their gap between these numbers. Like the gap between 5 and 280 is 275, the difference. And it's narrowing. So I'm going to try and get it to narrow down to the gap of 5 because they're probably my numbers. So if I just jump to 10, I'm not even going to look at 6, 7, 8 or 9. Jump to 10, we times by 2 there, so we divide by 2, or you should know that 10 goes into that 140 times. If I go again, times by 2 from here to here, divide by 2 on the other side, I have 20 and 70. So now our gap or our difference is only 50. So we're trying to get to 5, remember. Now if I do it again, times by 2 divided by 2, I get 40 and 35. Now, they're not, normally we would write them as 35 and 40, but it doesn't really matter. You can see that 40 and 35 have a gap or a difference of 5. So it looks like that's our factor pair. Our highest is going to get the positive. So 40 is the highest, that gets the positive. Our signs have to be different, so the other one's going to get a negative. So they're our numbers. So now we're going to keep our 0 on the left, put H in our brackets, and put in the plus 40 and the minus 35. Now, if you can just jump straight to here, that's great. If not, just put your bracket equal to 0 for both of them and keep going. But this one, when you make it equal to 0, will end up giving you an answer of minus 40. And this one, when you make it equal to 0, will give you an answer of 35. Now, at this point, a lot of people think they're finished and they just go, H equals minus 40 and 35, full stop, I just solved an equation, I'm done. But you have not answered the question. The question wants the base and the perpendicular height. So the H we just found is the perpendicular height. You cannot have minus 40 for a perpendicular height. So if you end up with a negative number for anything that's a length, a breadth, a radius, height, whatever, it can't be negative, right? You can't end up with an area that's negative 5 metres squared. You can't end up with a volume that's negative 3 metres cubed. Okay, so a lot of things to do with measurement, none of those things can be negative. So if you get a negative answer, you get rid of it, but you have to explain why you're getting rid of it. So now we're going to say H equals 35, because that's positive, that's okay, because heights can't be negative. You have to explain why you're getting rid of that answer. So we've got the height, the perpendicular height, but we don't have the base yet. So the base is this one here, and the base is H plus 5. So we're going to put this into H plus 5 now. And you'll end up with 40. Now, remember your units. So back over here they told you that the area was in metres squared. So both of these will be in metres. And we'll write down our answers together at the end. And now you're finished. Okay, so it's really easily done to be caught out here. A lot of people will stop there when they get the 2H answers. A lot of people will not get rid of the negative answer and explain why. And then a lot of people will forget to go and find the base. So your dimension, so your base and your perpendicular height. Okay, the next question, this is the start of it. It says the product, which means times, of two consecutive integers. So consecutive integers are one after the other, like 47, 48. Is 600. Find the integers. So we need a let statement. This is not something that's talking about a shape where you can draw the shape. So we're going to use a let statement. So we're going to let I equal the first integer, I for integer. Now the next one, the consecutive one, is the one after it. So you would be adding 1 to that to get the next consecutive integer. So I plus 1 will be the next integer. So now we're going to take those two, the I and the I plus 1, and we're going to multiply them because that's what the product is. So we've got I times I plus 1. Don't forget, anything with more than one term goes in brackets. Now, the product is 600, right? So the product is going to equal 600. So we can say, well, that is going to equal 600. So now we're just going to expand our brackets. I squared plus I equals 600. Bring the 600 over, so we have an equal 0. I squared plus I minus 600 equals 0. Then we're doing a product of minus 600 and a sum is positive 1. Put that in red pen. So now, again, 600 is a big number. We're going to start looking at factor pairs, 1 and 600, 2 and 300, dot, dot, dot. Let's jump down to 10 and 60. Now we're trying to get a gap of 1. Okay, so you can see what I've done here. I've gone, all right, we'll double this and halve this, 20 and 30. Now we've only got a gap of 10. We're looking for a gap of 1. So I thought, well, I'll try 25 because I know it ends in a 0, it ends in 0, 0. 25 will go into that. And it goes in 24 times. So there's your gap of 1. Your highest one is going to get the positive, plus 25. They're going to be different signs, so the 24 will have to be a negative. So I'm going to continue in a minute with this in the next video. But some of you, when you're going to do your factorising, you might go, I don't want to sit there wasting my time doing factors for 1400. If you wanted to on this question, you could go straight to the quadratic formula. Right? If you use the quadratic formula, you would have ended up with minus 40 and 35. So some of you might prefer to do that. I just generally go with this because, you know, once you get pretty good with your factors, you'll get there pretty quickly anyway. But some of you might just go, oh, look, I'm not really good at my tables. I think I'll muck this up. Use your quadratic formula if you want to. You'll still get those 2 answers, and then the rest you'll continue the same. Okay, so I'll come back in the next video and finish off the second example and do one more.